Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Failed leadership contender Ash Regan has been very dismissive of Humza Yousaf's plan to secure a second independence referendum by getting the most seats. She says the only way Scotland can ever be independent is through a unilateral declaration of independence and take it away from any kind of democratic route. This is regardless of the fact that most Scots don't actually want to be independent. They want to retain the Union. But of course, in her sort of delusional mind, she's right and they're wrong, even though she's in the minority. Never mind the fact also that when this was last tried, for example, in Spain, the leaders of that particular organisation that were calling for it ended up doing 25 years in prison for treason. Although I think 25 years for Ash Regan would also concentrate her mind wonderfully. She'd come out in 25 years' time, see that Scotland was still in the Union and perhaps think, that was a bit of a waste of my life. Never mind, Ash, keep trying. Anyway, we'll take a look at this, see why she's so against any kind of democratic mandate and wants to just go along the lines of treason. Here goes. SNP rebel launches brutal attack on Humza Yousaf's Skexit plan, dubbing it a continuity cul-de-sac. Well, it's not surprising he also dubbed himself the continuity candidate, so there you go. Former SNP leadership contender Ash Regan fired a broadside at the First Minister, who was relieved to see his amended Skexit plan passed at the party's conference in Aberdeen. Only, of course, at the second attempt, he wanted the most seats, and they eventually settled on the majority of seats. Of course, what was ironic was 2 days later, he realised it was pointless. It took him basically 7 days to realise it was pointless. It took us 7 seconds. 5 of those involved reading the actual line. Because, of course, it's pointless. It's not a referendum. The UK government have got no obligation to talk or anything. They'll just go, no. You know, and then when the dawning realisation on him, and he was like, oh, yeah, rubbish, isn't it? This is what happens when morons are in power. Anyway, talking of morons, Ash Regan, one of Humza Yousaf's old enemies, has launched a brutal attack on his Skexit plan, as she marked the failure of the SNP to hold a second independence referendum on October the 19th. This was Nicola Sturgeon's plan, of course, till the Supreme Court struck it down and saying she doesn't have the authority. Very much stamped her tiny little feet and went off in a little huff, you know. Anyway, Ash Regan, who failed in a bid to replace Nicola Sturgeon as First Minister, like she's failed in so many things, took to social media to bemoan a lack of progress on breaking up the UK. The new occupant of Bute House seemed relieved when he managed to push through his much amended, pointless independence plan at SNP conference. And it calls for negotiations with the UK government about Skexit if the Nationalists win a majority of the seats at the next election. And we've all seen the polls, far from being the majority, far from even being the most. It's likely the SNP are going to be massively wiped out. They'll be possibly even the third party with a bit of tactical voting. That'd be a shame, wouldn't it? Anyway, it was not welcomed by everyone inside the party, with some of the extremist fringe members calling for treasonous behaviour and breaking up the union without permission of Westminster, with Miss Sturgeon's de facto referendum plan being dismissed. Now, I don't mind if they want to have a bit of treasonous behaviour, so long as they are prepared to pay the consequences for that treason. 25 years in prison. Knock yourselves out, girl. You know, off you go, do it, and then let's just see you in Wandsworth for the next 25 years. Suits me fine. Anyway, Miss Regan took to social media to take a pop at the leadership of the SNP as she dubbed the new proposals a continuity cul-de-sac. As she said, as the clock strikes 10 and the storm rages on, we're reminded of the referendum that should have been. It was never going to be, though, was it? And even if it had, you'd have still lost. She said, a day that could have been a turning point for Scotland is now marked by tempests, not ballots. The promise of no ifs, no buts lies unfulfilled, she says. Continuity, as it turns out, is a cul-de-sac. Scotland deserves better. And there he is. And just look at this picture. Now we will go in, but he's holding his hand on his heart. Now you see a lot of them hand standing like that. Is that the WEF salute? Goes to show that they're aligned with their WEF paymasters. Who knows? Anyway, during the SNP leadership contest, Miss Regan proposed her own Skexit strategy, which she called a voter empowerment mechanism. Words that she has no comprehension of, I suspect. This would be placed as a line 1 on the SNP manifesto at the next election, and it would have seen the UK broken up without permission of the UK government, and incidentally without permission of Scottish people, if the pro-independence parties won a majority of seats and votes at the next general election. Just because you vote for a party doesn't mean you agree with everything the party stands for. And that is a major issue. And if it had have come to votes at the party and they'd have lost, then that would have been their manifesto. That would have been destroyed. And that is, of course, why Nicola Sturgeon avoided it. She saw it was a poisoned chalice. She was clever enough to see it that way. Ash Regan, not very clever. You know, we saw how dim she truly is. Anyway, she claimed that the international community will see that, and I think that the clear instructions should be enough to trigger those negotiations. No, it's not, because you don't vote on a single issue at a general election. That's why you have referenda. Not hard. It really isn't hard. Anyway, another one of her outlandish suggestions was to install a readiness thermometer. Anal or oral? We need to know. This would be in the likes of Glasgow, which would show how ready Scotland was to go independent. That would be very tepid, wouldn't it? Her comment on social media was welcomed by a number of other fringe nationalists, extremists and weirdos, basically. Hope Over Fear, which is linked to former MSP Tommy Sheridan, another one who's bonkers, exclaimed, "Well said, Ash Regan." Robert Slavin added, "We do indeed." While SNP Peterhead convener David Burkitt responded, "Thanks for that, very helpful." It's all trite and meaningless, isn't it? It's all like I better put a response here. Nothing constructive is being said, because, no brains. But it was an AI-generated image to go along with her post, which was mocked. In it, there are 3 road signs, with one of them completely unintelligible. Well, that matches Ash Regan perfectly, I would have thought. One says continuity, signposted both ways, while the other reads vast political misjudgments. Cameron Archibald wrote, "Just incredibly funny that Ash Regan didn't want to spend time paying an actual artist for this picture, so has used AI instead." Glasgow Labour councillor Kieran O'Neill's added, "This person used to be partly responsible for our legal system." And now he's calling for illegal activity by, treasonous behaviour. Miss Regan has been one of the more outspoken critics of Mr Yousaf's reign so far, but has not went as far as Fergus Ewing, who was actually suspended for voting against Lorna Slater in a vote of no confidence. He was suspended from his party for voting against someone in another party, and that seems very, very weird, doesn't it? It just is. And the point is, he was the only one with enough balls to do so. So well done to Fergus. But Ash Regan really is thick as 2 short planks, isn't she? She hasn't got the intelligence she was born with. And she wants to run a country. What a sad state of affairs it is. Anyway, coming up and rounding off. So we do see on a regular basis how dim the SNP are, but particularly their extremists. And here we have Ash Regan, none more extreme, calling for treasonous behaviour just because she hasn't got her own way. Where will it end? It's almost as though they have no respect for the people of Scotland, because it is only a minority view. To drag Scotland out of the Union against the majority will is no less extreme than her call for a treasonous action. It's a very weird position to take. That's why democracy is more important. But she can't accept democracy because the people will not give her what she so readily desires. Tough, isn't it, being in a minority? Anyway, I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you see here on the channel, please hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, leave a like, leave a comment. Please share the video. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and remember, Ash Regan is a moron. Bye.